It seems to me that painting the desire of born-again types to share the good news with the rest of us as some act of generosity is a lie that only fools those who use it. The rest of us are, I think, pretty much, for the most part, not entirely convinced. I've heard a similar argument that goes along the lines of, if you saw someone walking towards a burning building or an unsafe bridge or into the path of an oncoming train or truck, you'd do your best to help save them, wouldn't you? And what this analogy misses, and it's the crucial point, is that if you're trying to protect someone from a real hazard, then that action has some merit. But what about if you were trying to prevent someone from entering a building because you believed it to be infested with vampires? Or prevent them from walking across a street that was being stampeded by invisible unicorns that only you and your friends knew about? The problem is that your delusion is so strong, you feel it's justified to do whatever is necessary to protect other people from a fictional threat. Your enthusiasm is so great that you want to share this good news with everyone. And that enthusiasm is how and why your argument, saying religion isn't forced on people, breaks down completely. You might think you've struck gold with the example that people don't have to come to your video channel in a stickam room or whatever, that they're there by choice, and religion is not forced on them, they're seeking it out. And that's true. These people are there by their own choice, presumably to offer their perspective in discussion or debate, sometimes just to be a troll. What softens your coup de grace into little more than a wafting breeze is that you're using a particularly narrow example of where it is someone's choice to participate. But you're completely overlooking all of the other occasions where they have no choice at all. Your particular regional flavour of religion may not itself be forced directly upon your fellow citizens. They may be free not to have to attend and tithe to your church. But your fellow citizens definitely feel the fallout of all the nonsense associated with your particular spin on the Jesus fairy tale. They have to bear the emotional and financial burden of pregnant teenagers, pregnant because of abstinence programs rather than decent sex education. Pregnant women are prevented from having abortion. Children are taught that the world is only a few thousand years old. Families are smashed apart by having gay relatives commit suicide or feeling that they have to disown their children for being gay. Gay people have been prevented from adopting children, getting married, serving in the military, and all of this not through their choice, not because of what they believe, but because of what you believe. They're forced to endure the consequence of your superstition as it leaks out of your life and contaminates theirs like a toxic spill. The idea that if someone knocks on my door and wants to share the good news with me, that's something I can decline politely, and that's an end to the matter, would be great in practice. Unfortunately, in practice, you don't take no for an answer. When you tell someone who's selling Jesus no thanks, the response is never, okay, well, thank you for your time. It's always, can I ask you why? Or, I'll only take a few minutes of your time, or some other persistent selling technique in an attempt to shift the product. Mrs. Doyle and her cups of tea has nothing on you people when it comes to relentless persistence. So let me make it absolutely clear that these people are not messengers doing us a favour by sharing the good news. They are pests. They're the equivalent of salesmen who cold call to sell you junk that you really don't want and certainly don't need, and who don't give up. And like all salesmen, they're after the same thing: money. It's not about sharing the good news and your church giving people immortality. It's about people giving your church 10% or more of their hard-earned cash and then sharing the task of recruiting more suckers. When people talk about having religion forced upon them, this is what they mean. And don't try and paint yourself as the victim, as someone who's been unfairly portrayed as the villain when you're only trying to do the right thing. Not everyone shares your enthusiasm or tastes. You seem to be interested in Justin Bieber. I've even mentioned him a couple of times in your video, so let me use him as an example. Let's say someone is playing their Justin Bieber records at full volume over and over again, all hours of the day, simply because, well, Justin is so fabulous that they want to share the joy of his music with everyone. It's not a defence that holds that much water, is it? They're being a nuisance, and people affected by this kind of polluting overspill have the right to object. They would have even more right if it was enshrined in law that their children had to sing Justin Bieber songs at school, and that you wouldn't be employed unless you said you believed that Justin was the best singer that ever was and ever will be. Ridiculous as that sounds, it's exactly what happens with your crackpot belief system. Just substitute the Justin bits with the Jesus-y bits, and you go from ridiculous fiction to ridiculous fact. And that's not to say that I think you should be denied the opportunity to practice and believe your particular brand of magic. I believe very strongly that you have every right to practice your religion and live your life in a way that makes you feel personally fulfilled, as long as it doesn't harm others. If you and your fellow believers did that, we'd all get along just fine. So perhaps you could bear that in mind, rather than trying to untangle the apparently Byzantine nuances of the word force. If you're having problems understanding what constitutes forcing your religion on someone else, it's really quite simple. No means no. Whether it's selling double glazing, hawking your religion, or asking someone if they consent to having sex with you, no means no, and you do not have the right to persist with impressing your desires upon another human being if it means completely disregarding theirs. If you persist after they've made their wishes clear the very first time, that's forcing your desire on someone else, and they have every right to object to that kind of harassment.